All right, everyone, welcome back to the What Worked For Me podcast. Today we have an awesome guest. His name's Matt, and he used fasting as a technique to lose weight, which I'm extremely interested to talk to him about. He lost a good amount over 200 pounds over his time. Matt, is there anything else you'd like to introduce yourself with? I know you're an avid turkey hunter. It sounds like from a brief conversation before.
You can see it on me all day long. Yeah, hi, my name's Matt. I'm from Lansing, Michigan. Um, Fasting and intermittent fasting, whole foods is probably and insulin resistance is what I'm here to talk about overall on what helped me proclaim my new lifestyle.
Sweet. So I can't wait to talk about all that stuff, but I always like to get a little bit of a backstory beforehand. No one wakes up one day at, a couple hundred pounds overweight. So let's talk about how you ended up getting to your biggest weight and kind of what your life looked like before that. So how did you get to the point when you realized like, okay, now I need to do something? What did your life look like before that?
Um, you know, there were signs that I didn't pick up until I realized at the very end that I was in dire straits. Number one, I was only buying clothes from Carhartt, and it was 5XL tall, and I was out of options.
Yeah.
And I was going to the doctor, and I was finally starting to get the check engine light, is what I tell people come on. At the young age of 35, I was diagnosed with high blood pressure. I was 155 over 128 at probably somewhere around that time, 390, 400 pounds. And I didn't stop. I didn't really care at the time. I didn't think it would lead to other illnesses and problems. And I continued to climb the ladder up until about 441, I believe, is what I technically said I'm done, and I'm going to do something about it. But my story stems back from my childhood. I was born into an absolutely huge morbid obese family. All my family members, including the women, excess of 400 pounds. My brother was 575 pounds. He was shorter than me. I'm 6'1".
Yeah.
Um, so when I was in first grade, I was getting called Matty Fatty 2x4, can't fit through the kitchen door. When my teacher would leave the classroom, my kids would all point at me and chant that to me. And all the way up, we are heavy, hard grains, starches, um, not a lot of, fats per se at the time, but we had, good meats coming in, and we had that. But the scale when I became an adult was just constantly consuming the wrong foods and the wrong beverages and not eating whole foods or exercising. So my entire lifestyle was just basically spiraling downhill in a rabbit hole that I couldn't stop. And eventually the high blood pressure light come on. But what I will like to say out there for those guys is they normally say the check engine light comes on with the high blood pressure, and that's an overall sign of your health. Unfortunately for guys, it's actually erectile dysfunction. That'll happen before high blood pressure comes in. Little did I know that was a symptom at the time that I didn't know. And we're talking when I was 25.
Right.
Okay,
I'm
so
sure it's hard
so
to be healthy and just have a normal functioning body at,
correct,
400 plus pounds. So
correct.
you grow up in a big family. That can be kind of hard because you grow up with, you know, culture that's not conducive for health and all of that type of thing. Yeah, you're smiling. I'm sure you could go on for days about that. And it's hard because I
Yeah,
feel like when you grow up in those type of situations, you almost identify like when everyone you know is big, you just think like, oh, I'm just big. There's no way to
yep,
to
yep.
change it. So you get up to, you know, over 400 pounds, check engine light comes on your way, and you think, okay, I got to start losing weight. I know eventually you got to fasting. Was that the
Yeah.
first thing you jumped to, or what did you try before that didn't work, or maybe it wasn't your thing?
What I tried, first of all, I had to lose 75 pounds before I realized that I should start intermittent fasting. So the first 75 went off, I was already feeling amazing. But once I hit 75 and I started intermittent fasting, it was like I hopped into a Formula One Firebird and I was gone.
So
Okay.
what did you do for that first 70 and how long did that take you?
I,
Let's
it was 90 days for me to do
Oh,
90 or
that's
100,
fast.
90 or 120, I think it was, somewhere there. I don't want to misinform people, but somewhere between 3 and 4 months, I lost the first 75 pounds. There was no fasting at
Yeah.
all. I was waking up and eating at 8 o'clock in the morning. Little did I know I had extremely high insulin resistance at the time, even though I was feeling much better. Inflammation was going down, pant sizes were going down, I was starting to get confidence looking in the mirror. So there was already progression that I could already see. But there was no exercise to be had yet. I was still, 375, 380 pounds, somewhere around there. And I just couldn't do it yet. So walking, my feet, my bones, my joints, my hips, the inflammation in the body still hurt, and there was none of that. So when I hit the 125, I introduced myself to intermittent fasting, and then I was able to exercise, and that's when my health really took off. But to answer your question, prior to the fasting, I switched from whole foods. I stopped putting sugar in my coffee because what I didn't know at the time was highly addicted to coffee. Um, I exercised very minimally, but I was trying to walk in the driveway with my boots on, steel toe boots. So, I mean, I guess I'm going to give myself credit for that. It was 20 minutes a day. That's about, for me at the time, probably a half mile, three-quarters of a mile. But you got to remember, I wouldn't walk straight. I'd walk like this because I was
Right.
so big. But I got to give myself that little bit of credit. But other than that, I had to stop drinking alcohol because I apparently was a raging alcoholic looking back,
Yeah.
and weight loss,
Hindsight's
much less
2020, right?
lifestyle. Yeah, but much less your overall health with alcohol, or if you have any type of goals like I did to lose weight and get in shape. Just I can't stress enough, you have to let go of the alcohol. But once the alcohol diminished, I was able to keep the scale going down steadily, and I'd have a social beer once or twice a month, and then the weight would stop, and that taught me, hey, you can't be drinking any alcohol at all if you really want to progress. So that was a big thing as well. And then water. I wasn't a water drinker at all, like I mentioned prior. So I had to increase my water intake like it was my job, is what I
Yeah.
tell people. And obviously, frequent urinations is I'd say a problem, but you're eliminating a lot of toxins out of your body too. So at the same time, that's more of a blessing as well. But whole foods, and I was still eating 3 meals a day before the intermittent fasting came along. But still, compared to getting off what they would call a Western diet or an American diet, and eating the whole foods, I had so much weight to lose. I almost mentioned one of the biggest priorities is not drinking pop. I mean, I said I increased my water, but the soda for me and the alcohol and the milk was just unbelievable. And it was hard quit drinking milk and going to almond milk. It was extremely hard, but I had to fight that, and I overcome it. Now I don't drink almond milk at all, or any milk. I do miss it a little bit from time to time, of course, but there's other things I enjoy.
Right. So it sounds like the first 70 pounds really came from almost eliminating something like the biggest culprits out of your diet, right?
Big
So
time.
alcohol, soda, sugar-based beverages, whether that was your coffee, whatever those
Yep.
type of things are. I know a lot of times people have a hard time doing that because those can be in some ways coping mechanisms, right?
Yep.
Like if you're big and you're in pain, sometimes alcohol can be really nice to take the edge off of being in pain. What were you able to do to actually like take the steps to get rid of those? I know you did it. Was there anything that you did that helped you out, or was it just a mindset change?
Well, I have a lot of I have a lot of determination compared to a lot of people, but even past that, what I did was I had to wean myself off it because I was addicted. So I gave up cigarettes 17 years ago, and I remembered back then I went from 20 to 15 for a couple months, 15 to 10 for a couple months, and then when I got down to five, I just didn't care a day. But back to let's just start off with coffee. I was drinking two 30-ounce coffees a day with four creams and four sugars
That's
in
a
it. I was
lot of
wearing
coffee.
myself out.
Yeah.
Okay. So I told myself today's my diet. I'm not going to have any sugar in the coffee. Well, little did I know the coffee mate creamers and all that are loaded with sugar in it too, but I had to start somewhere.
Right.
So I eliminated the four sugars out of the coffee. That's 8 packs of sugar a day right in the morning. But I did that for a couple months. It sucked. And then I finally said, okay, I'm going to go down to two or three creamers a day in my coffee and still have the same amount. And then finally, a month and a half or so went after that. I don't know the exact time, but it was a long period of time. I finally said, okay, now I'm only going to have one coffee with cream, and the next day I'm going to have black. And that was horrible. I mean, it was horrible. I went. I remember I didn't know if I could do that part. I went at least 2 months going that route, and then finally I said, okay, now you're going to have coffee one day, and the next day you're not going to have any. And then that went for a couple months, and that was horrible, right? And then I did that, and then 2 more months went by, and I said, okay, now you're only going to have coffee black every other day. And that was another jump, pulling off the creamer, and that was another carbohydrate and sugar source that I eliminated, and sweetener, and that killed me. And then finally, going, now we're well into a year of doing that. Finally, I just said, well, I can occasionally have coffee every other day or every 3 days black, and see how that goes. And then I started to get cravings for the black coffee because I changed what was going on up
Right.
here, and now I started to crave the coffee, and then it was game time for me. And now I don't drink any caffeine. I live a non-caffeinated life, which is a whole nother podcast, and how amazing that feels, especially with your sleep. But back to that.
Yeah.
So I pulled myself off the coffee that way. The alcohol, just sheer determination. I wanted it bad enough, but I was on the scale every single day back then, which is slavery, if you ask me. But anyway, I would watch it go down
Yeah.
when I quit drinking, and then again I'd go out maybe 2 weeks and have a social beer with a friend or two, and I wasn't lifting weights then yet, so I didn't realize just how bad I was tanking myself out and killing myself. But
Yeah.
once I stopped that alcohol, even on the couple days after losing all the weight, or a couple weeks and having a beer, I seen it drop so fast, and I kept feeling better. I said, for me, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to keep it clean until I get off, and win the finish line. And once I lost the weight that I lost, I went back to socially drinking about a 6 pack a month. And to me, that was responsible drinking, coming from a guy who would drink a fifth of alcohol a night, or sometimes a 12
Right.
pack of Bud Light a night, with the sugar content and the carbohydrate content. I don't even want to fathom. But that was a big priority for me. And then I learned off alcohol. Now, keep in mind, this is well over a year. I went back to social drinking. I was going in the weight room at that time, and I would go in day after, 2 days after, 3 days after, even just having two 12-ounce Bud Lights, and I would just be wrecked. My numbers were diminished so low on warm up. It felt like I was
Like gravity's turned up a little.
yeah, like I'm
Yeah.
looking down at the machine, and I'm like, wow, I'm only 2 minutes on the machine, and I want to get off. This is horrible. Instead of feeling, hey, I'm 5 minutes on, I'm starting to feel better, and I'm liking this. I want more intensity, and the oxygen's coming in, and the blood flow, and the lactic acid is getting out of the muscle, and it was a different lifestyle. I realized what alcohol was leading me down to, that I was already in the rabbit hole. And then that's when I finally said, I don't even get intoxicated by drinking one or two social beers anyway with my meal if I go out. So I'm done, and I went to Key West and had some alcohol last year, but I decided I don't even want to drink anymore. Period. A drop. So I'm officially like 7 months and 1 week completely alcohol free.
Good for
Best
you, man.
decision I ever made in my life.
That's awesome. Good for you. I think that's
Thank
that's a
you.
big step. So you kind of did both things, right? But both of them kind of had this the stepping down method. That was the thing that you found worked really well for you, is just slowly weaning off of it.
Yes.
I do want to go back to when you started fasting, because
Yep.
um, you'll do like multiple day fasting, which I'd love to hear some more about. But you hit 70 pounds down. Is that when you kind of hit a plateau and you were looking for something else? How did the fasting end up coming into play?
I hit so many plateaus because of how long and big my journey was, that I don't remember if the 75 down I hit a plateau. I'm sure I did, and I know when I hit 325, I was there for over a month, and I just could not drop it no matter what. I had to increase my faith, which is a whole nother topic, to do that, and that's
Yeah.
all our own thing. But the big thing is when I hit 75 down, my friend Marshall Leathers was already losing a bunch of weight, and he went right in out the gate with intermittent fasting. Not long term yet, but he was intermittent fasting, and I seen his results. But one thing you have to know about that man is I've known him my entire life. So what he said to me, and looking at his physical appearance, I bought it.
Yeah.
Is what happened, because he's a person that I knew right next to me that did it, and,
Is
and
he
he
another influencer, or is that I'm not familiar with?
he originally influenced me, but no, he's just a casual guy who lost
Okay,
80
sweet.
pounds. And still, to me, I think that's just,
That's awesome. 80
amazing,
pounds is life changing. Yeah.
and
And
he's
he
only
was doing it.
5'8",
Yeah, that's not a big
instead of
man.
6'1". So it's a big deal for his body and
Yeah.
his base metabolic rate.
Yeah.
But intermittent fasting, when I originally started doing that, here's what happened. I didn't realize how bad a boat I was in.
Yeah.
So the next day I decided I'm going to start fasting for the first time ever. And he said, make it till noon. and I couldn't do it. I was calling him at 10 o'clock and I said, I'm burning and hurting so bad that I have to eat right now. And he said, if you have to eat, then eat. But tomorrow you're going to try again. And I didn't realize the boat that I was in yet. I
Yeah.
just wanted to make it till noon. So 2, 3 days went by and it was burning and hurting. And I was eating at 10. And finally, the fourth day, I made it till noon. And I was like, wow, I made it till noon. This is awesome. And I stuck with it. I stuck with it and kept going. And as the week went by, I started to feel better and better and better. And I started to feel the inflammation go down. And then I bought into it myself on just the weight was going down as well. And little did I know, I was lowering my insulin resistance and I was turning my body into insulin sensitive, which is what all of us need to do to regulate our blood sugar and insulin. And this is for the people too that are watching that are or not diabetic, because 8 out of 10 people in the United States don't even know it, but they're pre-diabetic. So
Yeah.
this is for you if you're watching this.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So
insulin resistance is a very, very common. It's crazy when you think, I think it's up to 70% of people in America are now overweight or obese. And yeah, 8 out of 10, that anytime you're carrying extra weight, it's very, very common that you have insulin resistance. So it sounds like you did the exact same process with the fasting. You just kind of eased into it step by step. So you got to where you were doing, waiting till 12, maybe waiting till 1 or 2. I think that
yep,
kind of falls into that time restricted feeding, right? You had an eating
yep,
window
yep,
from
your
6
window.
to, whatever that was. And I know it sounds like you also will you got to the point where you're doing multiple day fasting, right? Where you were
Yes,
fasting long term. When
yes.
was the first time you started doing that, and how did that become a part of the process? Because that's kind of a unique way to lose weight.
I didn't know at the time, but I should have done it much earlier. I was just totally thrilled and happy with intermittent fasting. So during the entire 300 pounds that I accumulated in the year in 1 month of losing the weight, I just intermittent fasted. And at the most, I did what they call a OMAD, which is a one meal a day. And that was working tremendous. But to get to the OMAD, it probably took me all of 2 months from where I was at to get there. And the 2 meals a day was still great. I was eating 3 or 4 eggs and some jalapenos for a noon lunch or whatever, and I was rocking that out. And I love that, and I
Yeah.
always will. But a lot of people don't realize the no carb, no sugar life, especially when it comes to carnivore. Your satiety is so much more fulfilled that you crave the foods that you eat more, which is the more meat and the eggs or whatever. But I wasn't there yet on the program.
Yeah.
But anyway, the long-term fasting didn't happen to me until literally I was already done with the finish line, and um, in a way, I regret that I didn't push myself further and further when I was losing it. But the results were coming in, and they were so great and beneficial that I was thrilled.
Yeah. Why do it
However,
if you don't,
yeah,
yeah.
and I did make mistakes when fasting, which we need to talk about. I wasn't taking a amino acid supplement when I fasted, so I did lose muscle mass,
Yeah.
and I would love to, and the people that I help, I make sure that they don't make the mistakes that I make, and that's one reason why I'm here. And this is long story short. I was pushing probably 50 to 75 grams of protein a day. That was it during that intermittent fasting, and
That's not a lot. That's pretty.
no,
You
for
probably
being
lost
6'1",
a good
yeah,
amount of muscle mass then, I'd assume.
big time. I lost before I started my journey at 440 pounds. I was bench pressing 225 times in a row. That's entry level offensive lineman
Yeah,
in the
that's a lot.
NFL. That's 400 pounds.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. My chest was bigger though, so I didn't have to go down as much or whatever. But anywho,
That's still a lot.
it's still a lot. I do probably 225, 6 or 7, maybe 8 times right now, but I'm 38 and I'm not trying to pump hard like that. So I'm more about lighter weight with reps, and I blow myself out on the lighter weight 135, 55, 75. I'm content with. I don't have anybody to impress. I'm almost 40,
Yeah.
you know.
So let's
So,
let's dive into what you were just talking about. You kind of got down to your finish line, right? Which was from start until that first finish line. I know you said you had some regain, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but
yeah.
how much did you lose from your biggest to that first bottom before you got the regain?
It was 441 to like 230 pounds or 250 pounds. So it was actually, I went down to 209. So it was more like 235 pounds. And the 209 was with excess skin.
That's a
But
ton. So
Yeah, when I went down to 209, people were arguing with me online if they bought something from me or I didn't give them the right price. They would profile my social media profile and say, "Hey, are you smoking cocaine or crack to lose your weight?" And it was like, wow, they told me go eat a cheeseburger when I was obese, and then now they're telling me at 209 I should go eat a cheeseburger again.
it's
And
amazing
it
how the
was
bad
like,
information is
wow.
always there.
But
So you get
yeah,
down to 209. At that time, you didn't really prioritize protein. You felt like you lost a lot of muscle mass. Um, what did you do to start to get more protein in when you realized like, okay, I got to get some protein in if I'm only getting 40, 50 grams a day?
the day it changed for me is when I went and did Tough Mudder competition course. I don't know if you're familiar
Yeah,
with that,
done the
but
tough mudder. They're fun.
my legs hurt for 5 weeks after that, sore every single day, and I didn't figure out what was going on. And at the time I was still at 50 to 75 a day, so I was going to the gym finally with a personal trainer who's a great friend of mine, and I just said, I don't know what I'm doing wrong on this. And he goes, maybe you should go up to your body weight in protein a day. And I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I did. And I healed within 3 days after that. So once I realized that the past 5 weeks, I basically ruined all my gains and my progression because I
Right.
was under eating, I started to think about the whole time when I was cycling 580 miles a month, walking, 5, 6
So
miles a
much.
day, and not adding the extra protein in, how much farther I could have gone, how much more muscle I could have preserved and built. And then I started thinking about choice proteins. So now I eat only the very best proteins. There's no whey powders or supplements over here like that. Only thing I eat is straight up carnivore pretty much for now. I was ketogenic the entire time I went on this weight loss. I want you to know.
Yeah.
People
So
need to know
it
that.
sounds like you re-referenced that a couple times that you really like the low carb, the keto type style that worked well for
Yeah.
you.
Yes, and I found out that most people who do this have been on keto for years, like myself. And when they jump into a more carnivore-based diet, now mind you, I love vegetables. I have a huge garden, and every year, and and we try to homestead over here as best as we can. Which
Right.
I love my vegetables. So a couple times a month, few times a month, I'll have a nutritious salad, but I don't overdo it like I did on keto, where I had a huge bowl with a whole onion in it, or a whole chop this and a whole that and a whole that and cheese. And next thing you know, I'm gotten 2,000 calorie salad in here. What are
Yeah,
we doing?
definitely.
And then, people forget how much carbs and sugar is in an onion. And I forgot the exact number, but it's loaded. There's a lot of natural sugar in there and stuff. So you'll feel a pull and an addiction pull if you go to pull it out of your body. So long story short, the past 2 months, I went to carnivore predominantly. And I'll never go back. I mean, my cheat days now are ketogenic days, to be honest with you. And to me, once you hit that level, I'm excited for the future for the next couple of years on running like this, but also too, what'll happen in the future as well with where my diet will lead me. But eggs are 48% of the weight of an egg can get transferred over to muscle tissue. So to answer your question, what happened to me on the way up when I wanted to put more mass back on, I pretty much ate 12 to 24 eggs. Once in a
Once
while,
a
I would
day.
eat 30 eggs a day, but that's, too much for me.
Yeah.
So consistently, it was 12 to 20 eggs a day, a big salad, and then I had a protein source. And now it's just straight eggs and meat and fish and
And were
tuna
you
pretty much.
gaining weight during that time period, or was this still when you were kind of maintenance? You were gaining at this point.
This is when I decided to start gaining. Is when I decided to go, hell bent on the eggs, hardcore,
Yeah.
12 to 20
Because
a day.
there's
But
tons of calories in that, so obviously you're gonna probably be
yes, but the B1 and the thiamine, and there's 6 grams of protein per egg. But what was most important is all the power lifters who want to gain muscle and get ripped quickly, they eat eggs like crazy, and red meat, of course, for the amino acid profile. But in the egg, the 40%, 48% of the weight of that egg can get transferred over into muscle tissue. So for me, in the past year, I put on like 35 pounds of muscle according to the professional scale that I use at my
built
friend's
up.
house.
Yeah.
And that's a lot, because I gained 50, 52, and I know a little bit of that was fat. So in September, I overdid it looking back now, but in the month of September 2024, I did 5 72-hour fasts and 3 48-hour fasts. And I didn't eat 11 or 12 days out of that month. And I lost 2 belt sizes around my waist. So there's your fat. And then I went to the gym and I started
Right.
pumping iron and I lost some muscle too. So then I realized I wasn't eating as much amino acid supplement on the fast.
So that
And
was when you actually it was so you lost all your weight originally. You did a
I,
little bit of a bulk, tried to gain some muscle mass back, and then the second time through is when you introduced your first long-term fast, right? Over 24-hour fast.
Um, when I finally was down at the 209, I started to do some 48s, but I think at that time I did only 3 or 4 48s in the course of once I lost the weight and I was just maintaining. I'd go up 10, 12 pounds in the course of, a month, and then I would do the fasting and burn it all off. And I did that for like 6 months, and I was just happy because, again, I was in first grade and I was morbid obese. So I was just thin and happy with no muscle,
Yeah,
and I
kind
was
of
content.
that romance period of the new relationship
Yes,
with the body where
yes.
you're like, I don't really care what you're just kind of happy to be in that new.
Yes, I can go clothing shopping anywhere in the United States right now. I can sit in a chair at the doctor's office that has armrests on it and not be wondering if I'm even going to fit in it. I couldn't even fit in it. I'd have to stand.
Yeah,
So for me, I was living a whole nother life as it was. But the problem is I hate to tell people like this, but the reality is if you're down in weight and you didn't maintain or preserve your muscle or have any muscle, unfortunately, you're just skinny fat. And that was a hard lesson for me to learn. And muscle is money. Muscle is wellness. Muscle is health. Muscle is medicine. So if you don't have muscle, especially the older you get, and if you're listening to this and you're in your 50s and 60s, weight loss is important. It's an overall byproduct of your health, though. So the most important thing besides your weight loss is your overall health, and that involves preserving your muscle.
muscle mass.
So keep that in mind. This is a big thing. When we lose weight, you have to preserve your muscle. You can't make my
Yeah,
mistakes.
yeah. And so during those fasts, what was like how did that first 48-hour fast come about? Was it just something you thought, hey, I'm going to try this out? Was it did you do dry fasting or were you still doing like water and electrolytes? What did that
So
look like?
I always did a water fast until this summer. This summer I did a 48-hour dry fast when it was 107 degrees out, and I did a couple long 30-mile bike rides. And I didn't. Looking back, it was a little too excessive, but I'm able to do it.
That seems a little crazy.
It is a little crazy, but I
Yeah.
have to tell people who are listening, I was in a metabolic state that was totally different than what I once was in. So I was able to push the limit and
Yeah,
do
you
it. I
probably feel so
don't
much better
recommend
after
this.
being 450 pounds. You're
Yes,
just doing
yes, but when it comes to dry fasting, please, people, you're going to do your wet fasting first and
yeah.
accomplish that, and you're going to get to where you're a veteran first, and you're going to change your insulin resistance levels before you proceed to do what I just did and mention. But anyway, back to the thing. 48 hours in was one of them things where you constantly have to keep pushing yourself because you feel the insulin resistance. So you're going to feel the burn in the body. And that's when I knew I was changing the body. So that same burn that I felt 24, 36 hours in was the original burn that I felt when I tried eating until noon and I couldn't do it. And at 10 o'clock, I was calling my friends saying, well, I just can't do it. I feel this burn and this pain.
Right.
I continued to feel the resistance and that pushed back the insulin in my body, and it made my pancreas work more efficiently. So what I tell people is according to stats, they say my insulin in my body works 10 to 14 times stronger than the average person who lives on an American diet. So I put
After
sugar
losing
in my
weight.
body, it shoots up and goes down as opposed to hang out up high where you
Yeah.
gain weight and then fight and go down. So that's changing your metabolism in your body. But the longer you fast, just keep pushing it off and keep going deeper and deeper, and then you'll get more benefits of fasting
That's
because the
what
people don't
that's what you
realize the
yeah,
benefits.
that's what you kind of you felt. You just slowly kept increasing the time, and that's what worked for you, and that's what kind of helped out
Yes.
with that thing.
Yes. Now,
So,
go ahead.
oh no,
Sorry.
you go. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Now, once you hit 24 hours, that's the sweet spot for fasting. That's when your autophagy takes off in your body. And what does autophagy do? It makes you young. It makes your skin vibrant. It makes your hair not be as gray. I mean, I'm over here and I'm 38, and I went to my 20-year college reunion, and all of them are grayed out. Their whole beards, everything. And they say it's genetic. It's not that 100% of the time. Sorry, I had a phone call,
Oh, you're
but
good.
I forgot what I was mentioning here. Fasting benefits. autophagy right around 24 hours is you're going to get a major surge in autophagy to 48 hours. So once I got to the 48, I felt the autophagy really kicking in. So I was more eager to go my first night not eating that night. And it was extremely hard. And here's why: my energy levels were through the roof. I was burning ketones so fast, and it was just I had to take
Do you have
melatonin
any
my
like
first.
measures on any of this, or is this just stuff that you're like, did you do any blood tests for ketones, or did you do anything like that along the lines? Or is it
Yes, I did a
things that you
urine strip. I did a urine strip
okay.
test, and then
Yeah,
my wife had that uh, pregnancy diabetes, pre-gestational diabetes or whatever. So she had the test strips in the house.
for the
So we
glucose.
would, yeah. So we would experiment sometimes a couple hours after we eat. What happens if we eat this? What happens if we eat that? And then I would see how fast I was shooting and spiking my insulin up, and then it was just over from there. Like I really committed. I was like, fasting is the way to go because your insulin stays, blood sugar stays steady and straight the whole time. And it's like having a full size battery in a car or having a little itty bitty lawnmower battery in there. You know what I mean? So I was running off the superior fuel source. And once I was just feeling how good I was feeling, I was running with that because I was always tired, sore. Um, I'd wake up feeling worse off than what I did, more tired than what I did when I went to sleep. I couldn't figure out what was going on. They told me they want to put me on a CPAP machine. And that was the only way to go. And it was like, this is going to be it for me, a CPAP machine for the rest of my life. And
Yeah, that's
no,
really common with bigger guys. That there's a like a dose response with the appearance of sleep apnea and weight. You brought up a good thing. How does sleep change being 450 pounds compared to 200 pounds or 250 pounds? What's the difference of that like?
well, I don't want to mislead people, so I'm going to tell you that my sleep pretty much stayed the same when I was on the ketogenic diet. And even though I lost the weight, I was able to sleep better in the bed. And of course, my bed loved me more. And I did buy a new mattress because we deserved it because my wife and I have lost 480 pounds together, and that's a lot of weight on a box spring.
Yeah.
But I focus on sleep directly. How do I do that? Because yesterday I didn't go out and get drunk, and on New Year's Eve I didn't go out and get drunk, and I didn't stay up late and party and play video games. So now I do more things that help promote sleep overall. I take a magnesium pill before I go to bed. That's just going to change things for you. Also, too, I try to stop drinking herbal tea after 5 o'clock so I don't urinate frequently at night. I
Right. And I'm sure
no
get off
salt.
of caffeine as well too, 'cause you said that you don't
Yo,
do caffeine anymore.
yeah, I almost forgot to mention I live a non-caffeinated life as well. And then on top of that, I try not to look at my phone at least an hour before bed so you don't absorb blue light. And if I do, I have the blue light sensitive icon on or whatever you want to call that. I try not to watch the news, people killing each other, blowing each other up. I can't change the world before I go to bed anyway.
Stressing
I try
yourself
not to
out.
answer. Yeah, I try not to answer serious calls late at night or have problems. And then low lighting, I try to have a candle on at least. A candle does wonders for your sleep. And then also, too, guys and gals, try to get your sleep in before 10 o'clock because your 10 to 12 is 5 times more beneficial than your midnight to 6 o'clock. So if you can get to bed and try to pass out before 10 o'clock, you're going to wake up totally rejuvenated. Now,
Feel
I
better.
take, yeah, and the
So
tea
you
I drink.
you didn't see too much of a change as much you said from the weight loss itself. You just built a lot of other habits around sleep to improve.
Yes, that's not to interrupt you. That's
Oh
correct.
yeah.
I can't stress that enough. When I ate ketogenic diet, I still didn't. My sleep scores on my wrist were 82, 62, 73, 74, 87, 61, 72. I went and did that for 3 years. And I don't even know what I was when I was morbid obese at 440 because I didn't have the watch at the time. But when I went carnivore just the past couple months ago, no carbs, no sugar going into my body, and game set match. Now it's a 96, 92, 89 for my lowest, 94, 91, 92. And when I wake up and I go, I slept so good. And that happens for me for over a half hour. I'll just be in the truck getting ready to go to work, man, I feel rejuvenated. I feel like it's time to go work out again. Now, also to help with sleep is vigorous and active exercise. Get in the gym 2, 3 times a week, lift heavy weights, build that testosterone up, break down that muscle,
Mhm.
go home with your discipline, have your one meal a day or enriched protein source, the choicest of proteins, high in omegas, your fish, your wild fish, though. It can't be farmed raised. That's a whole nother conversation. And when you start, you notice how I mentioned you just keep combining all the other additives to make it the Formula One vehicle. This is what it is the whole entire lifestyle, sleep, intermittent fasting, whole foods diet,
Right?
not
It's
drinking
about
the
all the
alcohol,
pieces that work.
all of that wound up together. That's what's going to make people have the results that they want. And that's why weight is an overall byproduct of your health, because once you actually get to the core and work on all of it at once, then you guys are going to be limitless, is what I'm going to tell you in your journey and your dreams.
Yeah. So I know at the beginning you had talked about that you came from like a bigger family, and I know
Yep.
sometimes culturally, weight's just a part of culture. You smile. So how have you seen just like your own culture change within your immediate family or maybe extended family, sort of revolving weight and health?
So listen, this is a very hard topic and this is a very sensitive subject because unfortunately not everybody around me is able to do what I've done, and they don't have the dreams and aspirations, but they want to lose the weight. So what happens is some people try it and they fall off, and then they get upset with themselves and upset with me that I was able to do it. But you can only just sit back and hopefully one day they'll approach you again. But as far as my overall family, I hate to talk like this, but I'm pretty much the only person besides my wife who's lost any weight. But most of my family members have passed, and the ones that are alive are in their upper 50s, and they're 480 pounds, and they're type 2 diabetic with thyroid, and they can't walk, and they're in a wheelchair now. And it's been really tough. My mom, on December 23rd, I talked to her for an hour, and she told me 2 days prior she was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes from McLaren Hospital here in Lansing, Michigan. And I told her, I said, you're 5 times more likely right now to have a heart attack or die of a stroke right now. And 11 hours later, she died of a major heart attack on Christmas Eve. And I didn't even have a chance to help my mom. So, like, I'm never going to quit till you guys see me pass away. That's just it. I have too much behind me, motivation for that. And my brother was 580 pounds. He left Thanksgiving dinner. He decided to drink alcohol and wrap his car around a tree. They couldn't even put him in a CAT scan. His liver started failing on him, his kidneys and his eyes, because he was already diabetic. He got into the hospital. They tried to do back surgery on him using a MRI to do it. They couldn't even put him in the machine. He passed away the next day. He didn't even have a chance because
Right.
of his health condition. So for me, biologically being around all these people, it's really hard because they're so far gone and so far overweight that it's really tough because we're working with extreme cases. But regardless, I know that it can be done because I again was the worst case scenario at my size, 6'1", 441 pounds. So I know it can be done. But culturally, I grew up from a Greek Orthodox family, and we're from Macedonia,
Hmm.
and rice is the big deal. White rice, not whole grain, even though whole grain will spike your insulin faster than you believe, buddy. But 1 cup of rice has got like 8 or 10 teaspoons of sugar in it. It's absolutely detrimental to the body.
Yeah.
Going off topic, when I made a memorial from my mom, and I already knew better not to eat rice, but I ate a couple cups of rice when I was losing the weight. I gained like 6 pounds in 2 days, and it did not come off the scale like water weight or inflammation. It stayed there. I had to literally burn it off, and I was down, a week because I was burning about a pound a day. I literally had a 3,500 calorie deficit a day. But again, it was back to not having the choice proteins at 250
Right.
when I
Right.
was pushing 50 to 75. But it's hard
But then
culturally.
culturally, just like it's been hard to kind of be in your family but not in the same culture. It's been kind of a struggle that way.
It's very, very, very hard. I can't stress to you how hard it is. And even with your spouse, I had to tell her, I'm doing this with or without you. I finally lost 100 pounds. We were eating separately for months already. She looked right at me and she goes, "You're really going to do this?" Yeah, I've already lost 100. You're behind 100 now. And she looked right at me and she was like, "Oh my gosh." And then she started to do it and she lost 150 pounds now. Way to be. But back to being culturally, we grow up in our families that have traditions, that have certain recipes that have been passed down from grandma and great grandmother. From my mother country in Macedonia, it's hard to tell them not to bake that food and eat that food. And unfortunately, when I go to my church, they eat the same things as well and pass out, and it's hard. It's very hard. So I made what I do is a game plan for my family. I tell them, if you're gonna eat the foods that you eat, when we have gatherings, every other gathering, you enjoy your traditional food. But then you remember when you ate that food, the next time you go to your family gathering, you choose to live a different life and bring your own meal prep or your food. And if your family don't accept you for it, that's too bad. You tell them the next time we have our get together, I'm going to eat your guys' food. And I'm sorry, I love it and I enjoy it, but I have to eat it now in moderation. And that's so I don't offend them. Because if I just went, because we went to a family reunion once and I didn't eat any of the food and they were very upset at me. They were like, you think you're better than us. And it was like, no, I just think I'm better than who I was. And
That's
rice
hard.
kills me. Rice kills me. So, you guys are going to struggle when you see your family members continue to eat the traditional foods, and it's a cultural thing. But I want everybody to know that when cancer and disease go through families and people say that it's hereditary, I promise you it's not. You're baking out a great grandma's recipe book. You're sitting down the same time of year, same day of year, whipping up the same foods at the same time. And that's what's really going on is food has the ability to kill you and food has the ability to heal you. So you have to consider. And like I said, to give everybody and make everybody happy, every other big time event, choose to say no, and then again choose to say yes, but
And
moderate
that's kind
that,
of
and
how
that
you
makes them
you did it.
happy.
That's basically how you did it. Is basically you
Yes.
tried to basically just slow down the um like the frequency then, instead of
Yep.
once a month or every other week when you were seeing people. How how did you navigate? You said a lot of times with those social issues, like people would get mad at you or people would get upset at you. I've seen this, multiple times where when people are losing a lot of weight, they will get pushed back from their, friends or family. How did you navigate that and not let that derail you?
Well, again, that's a whole other topic about faith, but I had to increase my faith. And a lot of that happened at 325 when I couldn't get down on that scale for over a month and I wasn't drinking and this and that and the whole spiel. I was giving 100%. You guys have to believe me. There was no cheating and I was giving 100%. You will find plateaus like this where
Right.
your body's getting smarter. So one way that this happened is I was at the time I was on an elliptical machine for 3 hours and I was burning 2,000 calories a day on that elliptical machine or every other day. Well, eventually my heart rate got down to 45 beats a minute because my body knew that if it went down from 45 beats a minute to about, I think it was 55, it was saving an excess of 2,000 calories a day in my base metabolic rate. So my heart got smarter and my body got smarter to fight that off. So I realized at that point, I realized I was over cardioing it,
Yeah.
but, um, I
Yeah,
forgot
but
where I was leading with that.
yeah,
Go
going
ahead.
back,
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
going back to what we were talking about, like how did you not, when like you got interference from like family and
Oh,
friends,
yeah.
type of things, how did you not let that derail you, if that makes any sense?
Again, I increased my faith, and unfortunately, with not drinking and getting sober, and really doing this long of a journey, 300 pounds almost in a year, you are going to lose friends. I hate to tell you guys that. That's the reality. Hopefully, you don't lose any family, but they'll choose to not be around you or help you as much and distance themselves from you. Some of them will come back once the check engine light comes on from them and they'll be like, man, I should have listened to you. I really regret not doing that. And it's like, yep, and I'm still here for you and I'm not going to charge you $1. So that comes back to me just feeling really lonely, but overcoming that with my own faith and ability and staying the course. And what happens for me is other people motivate me now when they finally get back on it and they do good and I see them make progression. That keeps me straight. And that keeps me the ability to cope with that because again, one of the hardest things is you think is going to be losing the weight is fasting and struggling, and that is. But when you start having friends and family be like, hey, this guy's really doing it and I'm not, and I want to drink and go out late and party and stuff. Unfortunately, I don't choose to live that life. So we're going to have differences and opinions and I'm going to lose friends. And you may not lose them completely, but everybody will just distance themselves away. But again, exercise is one answer to that question. I try to walk my dog as much as possible, and he deserves it because of my sobriety. We have more time together, and I'm not sleeping in and stuff. So a morning walk helps your cortisol levels, managing
Kind of
that.
basically you just replaced it with other things. Like when you lost kind of the
Yep.
support, the cultural the support from your friends and family, you found other ways to replace it with other healthy options.
Yes. Yes. That's a
So
quick way to say it. Yes, sir.
if you've talked about you've lost multiple hundreds of pounds over the last couple years. Uh, what do you think were some of your biggest mistakes? I know you touched on already the not getting enough protein. Is there anything else that if you could go back and start over, you know, you're 450 pounds again, you know you're going to lose 200 pounds, 200 plus
Yep.
pounds. What would you do differently?
I guarantee you for a fact I'd go right into a hardcore 48-hour fast. Bang. And it's going to hurt. It's going to
Do
hurt
you think
because
your
you're
body
not
could
used to
do
doing.
that? Because that goes kind of against like your step in method
I
before.
really don't know. That's why I'm thinking about it. But I know that if I did, I would lower the insulin so much faster, and then that would make the body so much more powerful. So, I mean, like, there's an influencer online called the Panda Diet Guy, and this guy tells people, jump right into a 48, and I actually agree with it because I look back, being hindsight, I would force myself to just keep going, and it's hard, man. Like I remember eating those first few days at 10 o'clock in the morning, but I would tell people shoot for the longer fast right out the gate. That's going to help you with everything in your life. Focus on sleep. I didn't focus on sleep until the past few months and really hone in on it. And that was no carbs and sugar. So if I were to do this again, I'd go straight carnivore and skip ketogenic diet because to be honest with you, I'm not a fan of it all compared to carnivore. I feel 10 times better. And because of that, I'm going to tell you go ketogenic diet. Then you're going to do at least a 48-hour fast, or you're going to push yourself and you're going to start doing 24-hour or OMADs a day, which is one meal a day. Then
Yeah.
you're going to have, again, like we said, a higher protein source, usually a pound for body weight of where you want to be at. So if you're 400 and you want to be 250, I'd say pack 250 a day. And then to add on to that, eat only the choicest of proteins. So rich omega-3 wild caught fish, also your eggs, pasture raised. Cage free don't matter, but pasture raised matters when you go to buy that. Just so everybody off topically knows that you need to buy pasture raised, and you're looking for the dark orange yolks. You're not looking for the yellow yolks. You're going to have more thiamine, collagen, all that good B1, B12 all up in there, and you're going to love all that. And then you're not eating grain fed source because the yellow egg is made from a grain, which a genetically altered GMO, which causes cancer and disease long term. But once you focus on eating wild foods, the choicest of proteins, you add the sleep, you add the intermittent fasting, which go for long term quickly. Start intermittent, and within usually 11 to 14 days, you start conquering insulin. Shoot for a 48. That's what I'd tell people right off the
So you
get.
just get started faster, basically, was
Yes,
some of the
I
things.
still, I still have a couple more things to mention. You must verbatim lift weights on your way down. Day one, do not make my mistake and just
Yeah.
go walk, ride your bike. And this is when I felt good when I lost the original 75 pounds. I'm saying if you have the ability to do that at that weight, do that. I tell people, I get jealous of some people that only have to lose 100 pounds because they can hop on a pedal bike and go for a ride day one of a journey. I couldn't do that. My first ride, I was down 75 pounds. I went for 5 miles and I was so tired I had to have someone call, or I had to call and have somebody come get me. And when I came home, I passed out for 2 hours on my couch. It was only a 5 mile ride, but I
Right.
was down 75 already. So, I mean, at 440, I probably couldn't even got on my bike. But luckily for me, my bike was able to hold a 500-pound person. So, that would be kind of
Strength
the
training
game
would have been one
plan.
of the main things. You said add strength training right out the gate. Don't wait for that.
Yep.
Jump into longer fasting
Yep.
quicker. Yeah, I think you talked about sleep or some of the other things that you think you would have.
Choicest of
Yeah,
proteins.
choice proteins. Yep.
Okay. Also go right for intermittent fasting after about 11 to 14 days, and you started to feel how good fasting is. You need 4,700 milligrams of potassium a day on your body. The average supplement has 500 milligrams a day. You're going to have to take a handful a day. So I have an enhanced version, high potency potassium pill that I take every single day, and I get that. And then the pink salt is absolutely critical because your second or third component in the body besides oxygen is salt, and you deplete it a lot when you live a new life because you're not eating the processed foods that has the salt in it, and that's junk salt anyway. But your body needs the pink salt, so if you don't, you'll have heart palpitations eventually when you run out. So I thought I was dying of a heart attack on a bike ride and had to call an ambulance, and they did my triglycerides and everything. They found out I was completely depleted on salt. And the next
Right.
day I was eating pink salt, and I went out and I felt like Superman 24 hours later. So that's your game plan as well. You have to take your pink salt and your potassium. And I would also toss in a couple other recommendations as far as vitamins and minerals goes, but that's the game plan. um, Intermittent fasting right out the gate, day one, weightlifting, walking, choicest of proteins, try to get high omegas as well, focus on sleep, and a couple other ones that I mentioned too. Again, the past 5 minutes, I forgot what else I
Right.
mentioned, but
Sweet. So I think we've kind of wrapped up a lot of things. I've had a great time talking with you today. I think we'll kind of stop it there for the sake of time. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for sharing your story. Losing that much weight is a crazy, crazy thing to do, and I'm sure that you feel much, much better. So we'll just end it there. Do you have anything else before we go, or
no, other than you have to remember you're going to reach those walls where the body is going to plateau, and you're doing everything right, and you're going to get confused on why it's not going down still. And you listen to guys like me and other people, and you're following it. And the biggest key is consistency over intensity. So you can't give up, and you have to keep going. I went a month at 325, and I was going to give up. I was going to give up. I was happy at 325, and I said if I go up, I go up, and I just kept going and going and going, and then finally the scale went, and then it went down again. And that once I did that, I realized I can do anything. So whatever you guys go through when you do this journey, do not give up. That's all I have to say. And thank you for your guys' time.
awesome? Thank you so much, Matt.